Hey guys, what's up? Dominic Abassi here for the British Columbia Football Conference, and with all due respect to all of the BCFC Cullen Cup matchups that have come in years before, for my money, what we have on Saturday night has got to be the most intriguing BC final in recent memory. The Island rivalry, the nastiest rivalry in the entire league, if not in the entire country, for the first time ever. The VI Raiders taking on the West Shore Rebels with the Cullen Cup on the line. I could probably cut about a 15-minute video touching on all of the storylines that go into this game, but the bottom line is this. You cannot convince me that there are two organizations in this league whose histories are more closely tied and more filled with animosity. It's going to be something else on Saturday night. I'm hearing it could be a sellout at West Hill Stadium, and I know Raiders fans are scrambling to try and get their tickets so they can get in the gate and cheer on their team against what is going to be a very boisterous Rebels crowd in West Hill Stadium. Now, looking at the matchup, lots to break down here. Some of the things that I'm looking at statistically in the two regular season meetings, the Rebels won both, but by a combined 7 points. A 5-point victory at home for the Rebels and a 2-point victory on the road in Nanaimo. I called the game in week 2 in Nanaimo. I didn't see the second matchup. But really, if not for a couple of big-time mistakes late in that football game, the Raiders should have won. They should have beaten the Rebels in week number 2. Statistically, both teams putting up very good offensive numbers, both around 600 and 700 yards of offense combined in the two games. The league's outstanding offensive player, Bryson Mayo, was very effective against the Rebels, put up 200-plus yards and 3 touchdowns in the two meetings. Deshaun Greenaway for the Rebels had 2 very strong games out of the receiving corps. And Trey Campbell, he only played in one meeting. He didn't play in the week 2 game. He had a big game as well against the Raiders. The Rebels had 4 sacks. The Raiders had 3. Now, turnovers were a big factor, and they will be, I think, a big factor on Saturday. The Rebels had 10 turnovers to the Raiders 3. And that's forced. Turnovers forced, I should say. The Raiders turned the ball over 10 times. 3 of those turnovers did come on downs. That's a big one because I have a feeling that if the Raiders are going to win this game, it's going to be because they played incredibly clean and did not make a bunch of mistakes, and that includes penalties and includes sort of botched plays and things like that, but very much turnovers have a chance to really change this game. And I know, of course, that goes without saying for every game, but even if a turnover maybe doesn't lead to points for the Rebels, I think that it could really do a lot to hurt the momentum of the Raiders, and in a hostile environment like it will be on Saturday, you know momentum is really huge. As far as these teams line up, sort of the position-by-position breakdown, I'll offer some of my opinions, and that's all they are. They're my opinions. Don't jump down my throat if you don't agree. And as a disclaimer, I've only seen the Rebels play live once this season. I've seen the Raiders play live 5 times. But remember, I talk to every head coach every single week. I watch a ton of games live and on the archives as well. So I've got a pretty good feel for these teams. If you go position by position, honestly, I think the Rebels are probably going to win most of those sort of head-to-head matchups. I think the Raiders have the best single receiver in the league in Mayo, but I think that the Rebels have a better receiving core overall than the Raiders do. You throw in guys like Nate Skeet and Kane Stevenson and to add to Deshaun Greenaway. If he's on top of his game, I like Jake LeBerge over Scott Borden. He's showing a little bit more of some dynamic abilities, but again, a lot of factors can go into how the quarterback is able to perform in a game. The Rebels, as a team on defense, led the league in sacks. They were second in interceptions. However, the Raiders had the 2 highest individual sack getters in Quinton Bowles and Brody Taylor, and Quinton Bowles is the Defensive Player of the Year. So you can kind of go back and forth at a lot of positions, but again, objectively looking at it, you probably like the Rebels a little bit more head-to-head at most of the positions on paper anyways. A few factors at play also to think about here. There's last year's BCFC semifinal that the Rebels won at home on a late come-from-behind game-winning drive, mostly led by Jamel Lyles. Now, the Raiders going into that game last season were this young team. They were probably outperforming what they should have done in the season and in that game. But now all those players are back, or most of them, especially all the young guys, and they have that experience of going into West Hill Stadium and playing a very tough game in a tough environment against a very good team. So that experience cannot be discounted. Then there's confidence, and which of these teams is feeling better about themselves? I don't know that either could possibly feel better. The Rebels have won 10 straight games. That is the equivalent of a perfect regular season. That cannot be overlooked, and I don't think should be undersold in any way. But the Raiders are on their longest winning streak of the season, 4 straight victories. They just knocked off the Sun in the Apple Bowl in October. No small feat, and anyone who's followed the BCFC knows that. If you add it all up, you have a historic matchup, the best rivalry in the province, for my money, if not the one of the best rivalries in all of Canada, and you have 2 red-hot, talented football teams ready to clash head-to-head in front of an emotional and packed stadium. This is cannot-miss stuff on Saturday night, for sure. I want to throw something in here, a bit of my opinion, and call it a plea, a call to action, whatever you want to say. Let me start by saying this. I've won a BC championship as a player with both of these teams, 2003 with the Rebels, 2006 with the Raiders. I don't know that there's a lot of people that have been closer to this rivalry over the years, certainly towards its inception, than myself. So I feel like I have a bit of the background to maybe make this comment and weigh in here. My call to action here is for everyone involved to make Saturday night an amazing showcase of the BCFC and football on Vancouver Island. We've seen this great rivalry marred by a lot of unfortunate things over the years. That's just the way it is. We've seen coffee thrown in faces. We've seen everyone from parents to alumni to fans to players, suspensions. Things have gone crazy over the years. Let's put that all behind us and move on. On Saturday, if the players get a little carried away and do some crazy stuff on the field, guess what? That's their right, because they are young men who are going to battle at high stakes with a trophy on the line. Things might get heated on the field, but let the coaches, the players, and the referees work that out. If you're in the stands as a fan, as a parent, if you're a team executive, the general manager of either one of the teams, if you're a league executive, all of that stuff, even if you're an alumni from either side that's had too many beers, because they'll be there too, I'll tell you that, stay out of it. Let the players figure it out. Your job is to go there and create the amazing atmosphere that will make this game the thing of legend. Go there and cheer passionately. Say some nasty things if you want about the other team within reason. But let's keep this classy. And to the teams, win with class, lose with class. Those are some important words to remember. Let's make this the first in a great new saga of respectful and hard-fought and still nasty Island rivalry games. And let's have all the focus the next day, that night, and in the press and all that be on whoever is hoisting the Cullen Cup and leaving our province, representing us, to go into either Regina or Saskatoon and try and win that game and move on to compete for the Canadian Bowl. BCFCTV.com is the place to watch it if you can't be there. 7 o'clock, West Hill Stadium. The Cullen Cup will be in the house, and it will be lifted before the night is done. I cannot wait. For the BCFC, I'm Dominic Abassi.